Paxolin and I'm an aeromodeller and an engineer. Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. Hi modelers, me again. I apologise for the last video because I said it was going to be short and it was 42 minutes, so sorry about that. This one, I don't know yet, we'll see how long it takes, but I'm only doing a small item, so we'll see. So what we're going to do today is we're still in the cockpit of my DB Sport and Scale Auster, but what I'm going to look at today is the pulleys that go in the upper two sides of the leading edge of the wing, but they're in the cockpit and they're visible, and these two pulleys carry the aileron control cables. So as you will know, the aileron cables on a full-size aircraft are quite often a continuous loop. So the upper horn on the starboard aileron will be connected directly across to the upper horn of the port aileron, okay, and then the lower, or the pulling action of the port aileron will come across to the centre section, to the cockpit, and they go round a pulley, down, round the control columns, both of them, back up the other side, and out a pulley, out to the starboard aileron. So it's a continuous loop, it's a closed loop type system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and replicate the two little pulleys that are visible in the wing roots, and try and replicate a tensioned cable. There is a little bit of a joiner and tensioner on the full size right in the middle. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to do that yet, or even if we are. So that's what we're going to do today. Before we get too stuck in to this little exercise, just thought I'd show you some of the materials I use. Obviously this is lithoplate. This is the slightly thicker lithoplate at about 0.3 of a millimetre. The other material I'm using is something you may not have seen or heard of, and it's Chemi-wood. And when you buy Chemi-wood, Chemi-wood is a resin-based modelling material. And this is a block of Chemi-wood that I bought from Phil Clark, Fighter Racers. And this is the size of block he sells for, I don't know, £10 or something. And what it's very hard, but it can be machined beautifully and very easily cut on the bandsaw into cubes and chunks and bits and pieces like this. So it's a terrific material. It glues really well with CA, it machines in the lathe beautifully, it mills perfectly, you can drill it perfectly, it sands wonderfully. To give you an idea what you can do with the stuff, this is a cylinder that I turned, believe it or not, in a drill, in a pillar drill. And all these fins were all turned in a pillar drill with a Dremel cutter mounted next to the pillar drill. So as the assembly turned in the pillar drill, my Dremel was cutting the notches. And then I moved it up a fraction till I got all the way to the top. The top, it's made in 3 pieces, as you can imagine. In fact, it might have been 4 pieces. And then I resin cast it. I make a mould, as I've shown in other videos, and then this became the dummy front cylinder for my de Havilland Chipmunk that I entered in Control Line Scale. I've made other bits and pieces using Chemi-wood. The usual use for Chemi-wood is to make something and then make a mould and cast it. So here you can see there's a wheel. This again was for my Chipmunk. These blobs of glue are where it was glued down onto the surface when I poured the resin. Poured the silicon to form the mould. So that's Chemi-wood. It's a lovely, lovely material, really, really useful. So we're going to be using that. In fact, I've already done that bit, and I'm sorry if those of you that haven't got a lathe, which is probably most people, I'm very fortunate in that I do have a lathe, and I've been able to turn these two small items. These are pulleys. Okay, they're 15 millimeters by about 3 thickness, and they form the basis of what we'll be doing today. To set up the control cable that comes in through the wing root, down through the pulley and down through the panel, all I've done is I've taken a piece of very fine piano wire. Sorry, I don't know the gauges, but it's fine, 20 something no doubt. And I've made a small hole in the combing and a small hole in the root. And then I've put a radius bend in it just by bending the piano wire around a pen. There we go. I think that'll do fine for me. The reason I've used piano wire and not, a more flexible cable is because I want it to give the impression of being taut. That's quite important with control cables. They're not limp. Okay, now I've just got to do the other one, and then we've got to think about how we're going to run a cable across here. Probably a similar method, but with a little joiner in the middle. What you have to remember here is we're actually gluing these small parts onto foam. So You can't use CA unless it's a foam friendly CA, which I don't happen to have any. So what I'm using here is I'm just going to use a really tiny, less than that in fact, tiny dab of epoxy in either end. So I'll pull it over and out. Little dab of epoxy in that end. Push it all the way in. Take this end out. Can't see the flipping hole. There it is. And there. I've tried to give the illusion of the locking that is placed on the turnbuckles so that the tensioner can't unravel. I'm not sure how well that's worked, but you have to remember this is only a sports scale model. We're very restricted by things like these great big uprights which come with the kit. The dashboard is not exactly in the right place. The uprights are not in the right place. The wing roots are not quite the right shape. So when you try to put things in absolutely scale, they won't fit. So you just have to step back and say, okay, well, I'm just going to try and simulate what would be there. And if anybody looks at it, they'll think, well, it must be right. It looks good. And kind of that's what we've done. So it's not really finite scale. If you were doing a real scale model, you'd use your reference aircraft. You'd measure stuff. These pulleys would be in the right place. This junction from the framework would be up a little bit higher. You wouldn't have these bars in there. You know, the thing would be somewhat different. Anyway, I hope that gives you a bit of inspiration into adding a bit more detail to your model. Join me next time, and remember, press subscribe and like, or thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you next time.